Dear Chosen One, something powerful is happening to you, and not everyone around you is ready for it. They look into your eyes and sense that something has shifted, even if they can't explain what it is. They feel your presence and get uncomfortable, even when you remain silent. And the strangest part? They can't stop watching you, because you're changing, you're getting better, day by day. And that scares those who were used to seeing you in pain, in confusion, in doubt. You're rising from a place they thought you'd never leave, and now they feel like they're losing their grip on you. You feel it too, don't you? There's something happening in the unseen, and you need to understand what's behind this transformation. Because the more you evolve, the more people around you start to unravel. And this is not just a coincidence. There's a spiritual reason why your progress is making others uncomfortable. Your light is exposing what was hidden. Your peace is disrupting old spiritual contracts. Your quiet strength is intimidating those who only knew how to manipulate your weakness. And what's coming next is even greater. In this video, I'll show you what's really unfolding behind the scenes of your life. Why you're feeling different. Why everything around you is shifting, and why so many people are reacting strangely to your presence. We're going to talk about the divine downloads, the silent upgrades, and the invisible elevation that's taking place within you, and what it means for your sacred mission. If this already resonates, write in the comments, "I am awakening." Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell. Because in the next few minutes, you're going to understand why this version of you is shaking spiritual realms, and why something incredibly powerful is about to emerge from within you. And by the end of this video, I'll reveal something that may forever change the way you see your own evolution. There was a time when you were surrounded by people who only recognized you through your brokenness. They didn't see your light, they saw your wounds. They didn't connect with your soul. They attached themselves to your silence, your fears, your confusion. And the truth is, you accepted that for a while. You thought that maybe this was life, always surviving, always shrinking, always doubting yourself to keep the peace. But something in you shifted, not all at once. It was subtle, spiritual, sacred. A quiet awakening began inside your soul, and ever since that moment, you've been changing. Every single day, something invisible in you has been rising, and that rise is making people uncomfortable. They may not say it out loud, but they feel it. People you used to trust, people who once had access to your deepest vulnerabilities. They're sensing that something is slipping away, and they don't like it. They feel like they're losing you, but they can't explain why, because nothing dramatic happened. No explosion, no confrontation, just a silent shift. You stopped playing the same games. You stopped participating in old conversations. You began protecting your energy, pulling your spirit back from the noise. And without realizing it, you became unreachable to the version of them that only knew how to connect with your pain. That version of you no longer exists. And the version that's emerging is untouchable. This isn't about pride or rebellion. You're not trying to prove anything. In fact, you've never been more humble. What's happening is deeper than self-improvement. It's a divine activation. Your soul is receiving information from a higher realm, downloads of truth, upgrades of clarity. And because this change isn't coming from the physical, it can't be stopped by physical means. That's why they're so confused. You're getting stronger, but it's not because of money or status. You're getting more grounded, but it's not from therapy or routines. You're becoming brighter, calmer, wiser, and they don't know how. But the answer is simple. God is working on you in secret. And that kind of transformation scares people who only understand the visible world. You've walked through pain that no one fully understands. Nights where you didn't even know if you'd make it to morning. Days where your soul was tired of trying. And while people saw your smile, they never truly saw your suffering. But God saw it all. every breakdown, every betrayal, every moment where you chose to keep going even when your heart was shattered. And in those silent sacrifices, something sacred was planted inside you, a seed of divine resilience. And now, after all this time, that seed is beginning to bloom, not in loudness, not in chaos, but in power, in purity, in divine timing. That's why you're getting better, because your roots were deepened in pain, and now your branches are stretching toward heaven. But here's what most people will never understand. Your improvement came through surrender, through the desert seasons where nothing made sense, through the silences where even God felt distant. It came through obedience when you wanted to quit, through releasing what you thought you needed, through choosing healing over revenge, stillness over proving your worth. That kind of growth doesn't make headlines. It doesn't look glamorous, but it's the kind of growth that shifts atmospheres, the kind that can't be denied. That's what's happening to you now. Every day, heaven is rearranging things inside you, and every upgrade you receive is disrupting old agreements that once kept you small. This is why your presence feels different, even to those who haven't spoken to you in months. Your silence speaks now. Your energy enters the room before your words do. And people feel that something has changed, even if they can't put their finger on it. It's not about how you dress. It's not about your success. It's something spiritual, something holy. Your frequency is no longer compatible with chaos. You don't argue the same way. You don't explain yourself like you used to. You no longer apologize for evolving. And that quiet confidence you carry, it makes others feel exposed. Because you're no longer available to the dysfunction they depended on, you've exited the emotional arenas where they used to control the narrative. And without access to your old self, they don't know how to engage with this new version of you. And that's where the fear begins. Not in your words, not in your actions, but in your peace. Because your peace is unnatural to them. It's threatening. It makes them question why they're still stuck in cycles you've clearly broken. Your elevation reveals their stagnation, and without realizing it, they begin projecting. Some will pull away. Others will try to provoke you. A few might start watching from a distance, hoping to find your weakness again, but they won't, because what's happening inside you is sealed by God. You're not improving to impress anyone. You're evolving because your soul finally remembered who it is. And no one can stop that kind of transformation. Not now, not ever. You didn't force this shift. You didn't chase it. You didn't even fully understand it when it started. All you knew was that something inside of you refused to keep pretending. Something sacred snapped. The old patterns no longer fit. The old conversations felt lifeless. The old connections started draining you. And instead of trying to fix everything around you, you started going inward. You stopped begging for clarity from others and started listening to your own spirit. And slowly, your vibration began to rise. It wasn't loud or obvious. It was subtle, sacred, but it changed everything. Because you began to align with your essence, not your wounds, not your story, but your soul. As this alignment deepened, the people around you started reacting, some with silence, others with confusion, and a few with hostility. They couldn't pinpoint what was different, but they could feel it. You were no longer accessible in the way they remembered. You didn't laugh at the same jokes. You didn't participate in the same chaos. You stopped showing up to the cycles they thought would keep repeating. And even though you didn't announce your evolution, your energy told the truth. It declared, without words, that you had outgrown environments built on survival, that your spirit was done performing for love, shrinking for approval, or apologizing for existing in your fullness. And that truth became threatening. People don't fear your growth because it's offensive. They fear it because it reveals everything within them that still refuses to grow. Your evolution becomes a mirror, and some people don't want to see themselves that clearly. So they blame you. They say you've changed, you've become distant, cold, arrogant, but you're not cold. You've just reclaimed your warmth. You're not arrogant. You're just no longer available to be manipulated. You're not distant. You've simply elevated to a frequency where noise and chaos can't follow. And this frequency is where your soul was always meant to live. But many can't reach you there, not because you've abandoned them, but because they've refused to rise. This refusal isn't always conscious. Some people genuinely believe they care about you. They say they support you. They smile and ask how you're doing. But beneath the surface, their spirit feels rejected by yours. Not because you pushed them away, but because your light now shines where they still hide. And it makes them uncomfortable. It makes them second-guess your intentions, even when you've done nothing but move in silence. You've become unfamiliar, mysterious. And in a world addicted to labels and control, mystery becomes a threat. Your transformation doesn't make sense to those who measure worth through performance. And so, they start watching closely, trying to decode your glow, trying to find cracks in your peace, trying to pull you back into the old narrative where they once felt superior. But that old narrative is gone. It dissolved the moment you stopped trying to be understood by people committed to misunderstanding you. The moment you realized your healing wasn't for them to approve, it was for your soul to survive. And in that realization, you were set free. Free from cycles. Free from codependency. Free from expectations that kept you caged. Now, you walk differently. Not to impress, but because your spirit is lighter. You speak less, but your presence says more. You don't try to be powerful. You simply are. And that power didn't come from outside validation. It came from surviving storms you never told anyone about, from crying in silence and rising anyway, from learning to trust God when everything around you looked like failure. And now, because of that trust, your life is shifting. People are leaving. Opportunities are changing. Doors are closing that once felt permanent. And while your logical mind may wonder why, your spirit knows. Your elevation demands separation. God is preserving you, pruning you, protecting your next season by removing access from those who cannot walk with you into it. Not because they're bad, but because their presence would contaminate your purpose. And as painful as it may be to let go, you've learned to surrender. You've learned that peace is more valuable than proximity, that alignment is more precious than loyalty, and that divine timing will never rush you, but it will remove what distracts you. Letting go no longer feels like loss. It feels like obedience, like trust, like finally allowing yourself to be led by something greater than your fears. And every time you release what no longer fits, you make room for the divine to breathe through you. That's why you're getting better every day. Because your growth is not random, it's intentional, it's guided. Every lesson, every loss, every moment of stillness is shaping you into the version of yourself that was always written in heaven's blueprint. And now, that version is coming forth, not to be worshipped, not to be admired, but to be used, to walk in purpose, to become the answer to someone else's prayer. This is why you're changing, because God has work to do through you, and He's preparing you in silence. You've noticed it, haven't you? The way people look at you now, some with awe, others with suspicion, a few with quiet resentment. They try to hide behind fake smiles. You walk into a room and it shifts, not because you say anything special, but because your spirit enters before your body does. The energy is different, clean, focused, aligned. And for those still trapped in cycles of performance, control, or deception, your presence becomes disruptive. You don't play by the same rules anymore. You don't respond out of fear. You don't seek approval. And when someone can't manipulate you, they begin to fear you. Not because you're dangerous, but because they no longer hold power over you. That kind of liberation is unsettling to anyone who benefited from your silence. They start testing you, subtle jabs, passive comments, shifts in tone, invitations to conversations you no longer have the energy to entertain. It's all a form of spiritual probing, trying to find out if the old version of you is still there. But it's not. That version of you, the one who over-explained, who avoided conflict, who absorbed guilt that wasn't yours, that version has been laid to rest. And in its place, a new you has emerged, grounded, unshaken, calm in storms that once overwhelmed you. Not because life is easier, but because your spirit is anchored. You've learned how to protect your peace without apologizing for it. And that calmness you now carry is terrifying to those who only knew how to connect with you through chaos. You've also noticed the silence, the distance, people you once loved now pulling away slowly, sometimes without explanation, sometimes without warning. And at first, it stung. You questioned yourself, wondered if you did something wrong. But now, you're starting to see it clearly. You didn't lose them. You were removed from them. You were elevated, lifted by a force that doesn't need your permission. God took you out of circles that no longer reflected your destiny, not as punishment, but as preservation. Because some connections were feeding your old identity, and as long as you stayed there, you'd be forced to keep shrinking, hiding, or performing. So heaven intervened, quietly, strategically, lovingly, and now you're free. This freedom isn't loud. It doesn't post itself for the world to see. It lives in your daily choices, in your silence, in your ability to say no without guilt, in your decision to walk away without needing to explain. That kind of freedom is rare, sacred, and because it's unfamiliar to most, it becomes intimidating. You've become unpredictable to those who used to read you like a book, and it bothers them, because they don't know what version of you will show up, or if they still have access to you at all. And the truth is, they don't. Not in the same way, not on the same level. You're still kind, still compassionate, but now there are boundaries. And boundaries are threatening to people who were once fed by your lack of them. The deeper you go into this transformation, the more you understand that not everyone can come with you. Not because you don't love them, but because they're not willing to grow with you. And spiritual growth requires death. Death of ego, of illusion, of comfort. Most people resist that. They want to be around the fruit of your evolution without paying the price of their own. But the season you're entering demands alignment, not attachment. You're no longer available for relationships built on old contracts of pain. You need people who can meet you in your light, not just your wounds. And if that means walking alone for a while, you've learned to be at peace with that, because loneliness with purpose is better than connection with compromise. And now, something even deeper is happening. You're starting to see with clarity what you once ignored. The manipulation, the energy drains, the passive-aggressive behaviors that once confused you. It's all visible now, because your discernment has increased. Your spiritual eyes are open. What used to pass as kindness now feels like control. What used to seem harmless now feels like a distraction. And you're no longer trying to convince yourself otherwise. You've stopped gaslighting your own intuition. That's why your responses have changed. You don't react like you used to. You don't fight battles that are beneath your frequency. You've learned the difference between protecting your peace and proving your point. And that distinction is making you more powerful than ever. With every step forward, you're becoming more whole. Not perfect, but whole. Integrated. Authentically yourself. And the world doesn't know what to do with someone who's not seeking validation. Someone who no longer performs to be accepted. Someone who is no longer addicted to chaos, confusion, or crisis. You're becoming everything you once feared you weren't enough to be. And the beautiful part? You're doing it without needing applause, without needing to be seen. Because the healing you've embraced is sacred, between you and God. And every day, It's taking you further from who you were and closer to who you were always meant to become. That's what they see. That's what they can't explain. That's what's shaking the spiritual atmosphere around you. You've started to notice how certain doors have closed, not with chaos or drama, but with quiet finality. Conversations don't flow like they used to. Invitations stop coming. Opportunities you once prayed for now feel misaligned. And for a while, this made you question everything. You thought you were doing something wrong, that maybe your growth was making you miss out. But now, you see it clearly. Those doors didn't close to punish you. They closed to protect you. God is curating your path, removing distractions before they can delay your destiny. You're not being rejected. You're being refined, repositioned, set apart. Because the next level of your calling requires a version of you that's uncontaminated by old energy. And that version is being built in the quiet. You're realizing that the things falling away were never meant to follow you into this next chapter. They served a purpose. They taught you lessons. But now, the season has changed. And clinging to what God is releasing will only slow your momentum. So you're learning to bless what leaves, to let go with peace, to trust that what's meant for you will align with who you're becoming, not who you were. That shift in trust is powerful. It breaks fear, it breaks codependency, and it opens space for divine alignment. You're not chasing anymore. You're not forcing. You're moving in rhythm with something sacred. And every time you honor that rhythm, your life becomes more peaceful, more purposeful, and more prophetic. People don't understand how you can remain so calm in uncertainty, how you can walk away from offers, relationships, or familiar environments without panic. But that's what happens when your identity is no longer tied to the external. You've anchored yourself in something eternal. And from that place, you see things differently. You discern what others romanticize. You pause where others rush. You surrender where others fight. Because you've learned that true power is not in controlling outcomes. It's in trusting divine timing. And now, every step you take is guided by something deeper than logic. That's why your presence carries weight. You've become a vessel, and even if people can't name it, they can feel that something holy is walking with you. You no longer need to explain yourself. You no longer crave being understood. That need died in the wilderness, in the nights you cried alone, in the moments no one saw, but God did. And in that silence, you were transformed. The approval you once begged for has no voice in your current reality. You're not cold. You're clear. You're not detached. You're discerning. You're not distant. You're aligned. And now, people who once felt close to you are starting to feel lost around you. Not because you've changed into someone else, but because you've finally become yourself. And that version of you is not interested in returning to the environments that first taught you to betray your own soul. This is the mystery they can't solve. How did you get here without their permission? How did you elevate without a visible process? How did you grow without their guidance? But what they don't see is the pain, the years of invisible obedience, the inner deaths, the ego dissolving, the sacred silence where you wrestled with God, surrendered, and rebuilt. They see the glow, but not the grave, the strength, but not the scars, the clarity, but not the chaos you crawled through to get here. And because they missed your process, they cannot access your power. This version of you is covered, sealed, anointed, and what they can't understand, they will either learn to respect or be removed from your path. You've become a frequency, not just a person, but a vibration, one that teaches, corrects, and awakens just by existing. You're no longer trying to be heard. You're embodying truth. And that embodiment speaks louder than anything you could ever say. You've become a mirror. Some will look into you and find inspiration. Others will see all the places in themselves they've avoided. And that's why your presence divides. It calls people higher or exposes their refusal to grow. You didn't ask for this role. You didn't seek the spotlight, but when you said yes to your healing, to your alignment, to your calling, you became a living reminder that it's possible to rise from the ashes. And that reality either humbles people or haunts them. Now the very ones who once doubted you are curious, watching, studying your moves, trying to decode the change, wondering how you got from there to here. Some will try to mimic your glow without doing the inner work. Others will ask questions, hoping to catch a glimpse of your secret. But you know the truth. There is no formula, no shortcut, only God, only surrender, only the quiet path that no one applauds, but heaven celebrates. And that path has shaped you into someone unshakable, someone rooted, someone ready. You're not just getting better, you're becoming. And that becoming is what's unsettling the spiritual atmosphere, because something divine is rising in you, and it cannot be stopped. You're starting to realize that healing isn't just personal, it's generational. Every layer of trauma you peel away, every illusion you dissolve, every false belief you confront, you're not just doing it for yourself. You're doing it for those who came before you, who didn't have the tools, the awareness, or the freedom to do what you're doing now. You're healing family patterns, breaking ancestral agreements, rewriting spiritual DNA. That's why it feels so heavy some days, because the weight you carry didn't start with you, but you were chosen to stop it, to shift the direction of an entire bloodline. And that kind of assignment will always be misunderstood by those who are still living in survival mode. The more you awaken, the more you see how much of the world is built to keep people asleep. Distraction, addiction, validation loops, ego games, they're everywhere. And for a long time, you didn't even realize how deeply you were entangled in it all. But now, you do. You've unplugged from the noise. You no longer need the applause of the crowd. You've stopped chasing people who benefit from your lack of boundaries. And in that separation, you've become a threat to systems that feed on disempowerment. Your peace is dangerous. Your clarity disrupts. Your truth challenges. Not because you're loud, but because you no longer participate in the illusion. And your refusal to play along is waking others up, even when they don't know why. You used to think you had to explain your worth, prove your growth, justify your distance. But now, you understand that your existence is enough. You've stopped over-explaining to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You've stopped proving your value to people who only loved the broken version of you. And in that release, you've found a peace that can't be faked, a peace that doesn't need to be explained, a peace that speaks louder than any defense ever could. That's what's different about you now. You don't fight for your place anymore. You walk in it, not with arrogance, but with knowing. Not with entitlement, but with reverence. You've been through too much to doubt yourself now. You belong. And that truth has finally settled in your bones. This journey didn't make you perfect. It made you honest. It stripped you, refined you, showed you parts of yourself you once feared, and helped you love them back to life. You no longer run from your darkness. You've integrated it. You've sat with it, wept with it, healed it. And now, your light is no longer performative. It's real. It's earned. It comes from wholeness, not from the need to be liked. And that kind of light carries a frequency that shifts atmospheres. People feel it, even if they don't understand it, even if they can't name it. Your transformation is real, and it's undeniable. That's why people stare. That's why they whisper. That's why they try to figure you out, because your becoming exposes the smallness of everything they settled for. And now, you understand why the pain was necessary, why the wilderness lasted so long, why the isolation was sacred. God wasn't punishing you. He was protecting you. He was preparing you. He was removing the noise so you could finally hear your own voice, the voice that was buried under years of people-pleasing, self-abandonment, and spiritual amnesia. But not anymore. That voice is back, clear, strong, anchored. And now that it's here, you're no longer asking for permission to be who you are. You're not shrinking for comfort. You're not diluting your truth to be accepted. You've returned to yourself. And in that return, you've found power, clarity, and peace that no one can take from you. Your rise hasn't been loud, but it's been felt, not just by those around you, but by the spirit realm. Heaven has taken notice. Hell has too. That's why the attacks intensified before the breakthrough. That's why the confusion hit hardest, right before the clarity. You were being tested, tempered, refined. And now, you're walking in authority that was forged in fire. This isn't false confidence. This isn't ego. This is divine identity. You've earned your peace. You've fought for your freedom. And no one, no situation, no person, no past has the right to drag you back into a version of yourself you've already buried. The grave is closed, and the new you is rising, gloriously, fearlessly, unapologetically. So take a breath and let that truth settle in your spirit. You are not who you used to be, and you're never going back. Not because you hate who you were, but because you've outgrown it. You've evolved, you've healed, you've awakened, and now you're living from a place of wholeness that others may not understand. But that doesn't mean it's not real. You feel the shift, you feel the strength, you feel the peace. And if you ever doubt how far you've come, remember this: you're getting better every single day. Not by chance, not by luck, but because your soul is aligning with truth, with purpose, with God. And that alignment changes everything. You're not just getting better, you're becoming who you were always meant to be. And that process is terrifying for the forces that once fed on your confusion. They can't touch you now. They can't reach you, because the version of you that once entertained chaos, that once bowed to fear, that once gave your power away in pieces, that version has dissolved. What's rising now is holy. It's protected. It's chosen. You don't walk like you used to. You don't see like you used to. You don't speak like you used to. And the most beautiful part? You're not trying to become anyone else. You're simply returning to the truth that was always inside of you. That truth is your weapon. That truth is your power. That truth is why they're watching and why they don't know how to stop. You've become the proof, the evidence that it's possible to rise without applause, to rebuild without permission, to glow without needing validation. And people feel that, even if they don't say it. They study your silence. They try to decode your peace. But what they can't understand, they eventually have to respect. Because your transformation wasn't for the public. It was for your purpose, for your assignment, for your calling. And now, without needing to shout, you've become a lighthouse. Your life itself is a message. Your journey is a prophecy. You've become what you once prayed to find in others. And that's why your presence feels like truth, because it's built on something eternal. So let them wonder. Let them ask. Let them try to figure it out. The ones who are meant to walk with you will be drawn by your light, not intimidated by it. The ones who can't understand you were never assigned to your future. Stop explaining. Stop shrinking. Stop trying to be palatable for people who can't taste the frequency you carry. You're not meant for mass consumption. You're meant for impact, for legacy, for divine alignment. You weren't created to fit into the old systems. You were born to shake them. And you're doing that just by being, just by breathing, just by staying true to the quiet, unshakable knowing in your soul. So if this message spoke to your spirit, write it below. I'm rising. Let it be your declaration. Let it be your reminder to heaven and to yourself that you're not shrinking anymore. You're not explaining away your power. You're not dimming your light to make others comfortable. You're rising into the full expression of who God made you to be. And if you felt this truth in your body while listening, like something inside you was being confirmed, Make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell. We speak these truths every week, and you're not alone. You're walking with a global family of chosen ones, souls who carry this same fire. To those who have supported us on Buy Me a Coffee, thank you deeply. Your support helps us reach more souls, refine our messages, and bring light to places where it's needed most. If you feel called to support this mission, the link is in the pinned comment below. Every act of support helps us go further, and we honor you for being part of this movement, not just with your presence, but with your spirit. And if this video found you in a moment of doubt, confusion, or transition, take this as your confirmation. You're not broken. You're breaking through. You're not behind. You're being positioned. You're not being abandoned. You're being elevated. Trust the silence. Trust the shift. Trust the strange. Because what's happening to you now is sacred, and soon the world will see what God was forming in the dark. If you've made it to the end of this video, consider this your invitation to go deeper. Watch the next video on the screen or explore the playlist to immerse yourself even more in these spiritual truths. Let your journey continue. Let your soul be fed. You were never meant to walk this path alone, and now you don't have to.